Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Wednesday, June the 30th. We got Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals tonight. Suns and Clippers. Clippers were able to get a pretty crazy win on the road in Phoenix last game to extend this series. So we're going to talk about the Suns and Clippers once again, maybe for the final time. We'll have to see if the Clippers can pull out another win tonight, but as always, guys, we're going to talk through this showdown slate, kind of break it all down from top to bottom like we've been doing. We'll hit on Draftkings, mainly talk about DK. If there's anything Yahoo specific, we'll talk about that as well. But, when it comes to these showdown slates, it's pretty similar, site to site. Then we'll also talk about Prize Picks. For those of you that maybe are new here or you haven't been tuning into the videos lately, we are now partnered with Prize Picks. Going to be putting out a lot of Prize Picks content moving forward, especially leading up to NFL season. And if you guys do want to check out Prize Picks, you want to see what they have to offer, they are running a new promo right now. If you do look on the screen, Prize Picks is doing a $1 million promo. This is basically their way of getting new users to come to the site. It's a shot at $1 million. Now the chances of you winning they're slim to none, but it's free. It's one of those things. It's why not take a shot if they're offering it. So basically, you pick 5 players. They give you 5 players. You choose or you select the amount of points you think they score. So, for example, like Devin Booker, if you think he scores 34 points tonight, you would put 34 for Booker. And if you get 5 out of 5, it's obviously, tough to do, but if you do get 5 out of 5 for those 5 players, you win $1 million. Even if you get like 1 out of 5 or 2 out of 5, you still do win. I think at like $100. If you get 2 out of 5, I think you win like $500. I honestly don't know, but if you guys do want to check out Prize Picks, now would be a good time to join, especially since they are doing this $1 million promo. Be sure to use promo code NOAH when you do sign up. That promo code will give you a 100% match on your first deposit. So if you do deposit, up to $100, if you deposit $100, they'll match that, give you an additional $100 to play with. Plus, you'll get an email or you'll get an entry sent to your email for that $1 million promo when you do sign up and make your first deposit. So if you guys want to, check out Prize Picks, link down below, and be sure to use promo code NOAH when you do sign up. As always, throughout the video, we'll hit on some Prize Picks that I do like for today. But let's head back over to DraftKings, start talking about this showdown slate. So we'll kind of start off at the top and work our way down. At the top, you got Paul George for $12K. I've been saying it every video. Paul George, in my opinion, is the top stud on these showdown slates. While Kawhi Leonard remains out, Paul George is just going to dominate the usage for this Clippers team. He's going to play a ton of minutes. If it's a close game tonight, you're going to get 43, 44 minutes from Paul George. Obviously, this is a must-win game for the Clippers or their season's going to be over. So I expect Paul George to be out there as much as he can. I expect him to dominate the usage, to have another big game. He's clearly the best play on the slate. If you can fit him in, you want to play him. Even if, the only way that Paul George doesn't make the optimal lineup is you kind of saw it on Tuesday night with the Bucks game. Giannis got hurt. He obviously had a bad game because of that. I can't remember, but I think he might have still been in the optimal lineup even after he got hurt, just with how that slate shook out. But in my opinion, I think the only way Paul George doesn't make the optimal lineup is if he gets hurt or just has a terrible, terrible game, or it's like a massive blowout. 9 times out of 10, Paul George, you're probably going to need him on the showdown slate. So clearly, best play. Don't need to tell you that. But then you have Booker and Chris Paul. Now, Devin Booker, he was going through a little bit of a slump, but he did kind of bounce back in his last game, put up 45 DK points in 43 minutes. I've kind of been saying it that Booker is going to be pretty low owned, or he has been pretty low owned because of these poor performances. He was fairly low owned last slate. If you were on him, obviously, that paid out well, or that paid out, in a big way. But I'm fine going back to Devin Booker. Now, I don't think he stands out as like a top option here, but still obviously in play, going to get 42 to 44 minutes. We know the usage, the opportunity is going to be there. He's going to take 20, 25 shots. Between him or Chris Paul, I think they both project very similarly. Chris Paul, you have at 9,600. He had an okay game last game, 36 DK points in 36 minutes. He probably won't play as many minutes as Devin Booker will. So maybe for that reason, I give a slight edge to Booker, but I think Chris Paul is obviously a really good option too. Both him and Booker are definitely, clearly behind Paul George for me. But obviously Booker and Chris Paul are very strong options once again. Between the two, if I knew who was going to be lower owned, I'd probably just prefer the one that's lower owned. I think they'll probably come in at similar ownership, but clearly they're both good options. Now, you have DeAndre Ayton at 8,800, who I was pretty high on last slate, and he was mediocre, only had 29 DK points in 37 minutes after coming off a massive game in Game 4. I'm fine going back to Ayton. Now, I think at 8,800, he's closely priced enough to like Chris Paul and Booker that I would just rather get to CP3 and Booker over Ayton. But I think Ayton's still fine. Reggie Jackson been really good in this series, but just been, ever since Kawhi went down, he's just been really consistent. pretty much every game that Kawhi's been out, you've seen Reggie Jackson put up at least 30 DK points in like almost every game except one. The minutes have been there. He's playing 37, close to 40 minutes a night right now. He's getting, opportunity. He's taking 15, 20 shots a game. Definitely like Reggie Jackson at 8,200. I think maybe Ayton has a little bit more upside, so maybe I would prefer Ayton over Jackson, but I think Jackson also makes some sense. Then we get to some guys that I'm not as interested in, like Mikal Bridges. Just really hasn't done it lately. I mean, Bridges already is not a guy that really has a ton of upside. Rarely do you see Mikal Bridges go out there and break a slate. He's been struggling lately, hasn't been doing much outside of, grabbing rebounds. I mean, he did have that one game where he grabbed 13 rebounds, but yeah, we just haven't really seen much from Bridges. At 6,600, I don't really like him that much. Obviously, he's playable, but I don't feel great about Bridges right now. Zubac surprisingly did not play last game. I thought he was going to play, but he surprisingly got ruled out. He's questionable for today, so we'll have to keep an eye on the status of Zubac. If Zubac does play and he's fully healthy, I think he's a pretty good option at 5,800. He's been starting lately, been getting big minutes. He's played at least 33 minutes in every game he has started out of their last 3. Obviously, if he plays, we're not going to really know if he's fully healthy or not, but if we can confirm that Zubac is, 100%, then I think at 5,800, he definitely is someone I do have interest in, because I would assume that if he is fully healthy, he's going to play his normal 30 to 35 minutes, and we've seen, Zubac can be really productive when he does get those big minutes. Then you have Jay Crowder, who is very similar to Mikal Bridges, except he's just a little bit cheaper. I think Bridges and Crowder are pretty similar plays. If I had to pick one, I probably would just rather play Crowder because he's cheaper, but Crowder and Bridges I don't feel great about right now. Just neither one really stand out to me. Now Terrence Mann at 5K did start last game in place of Zubac. They went small ball. They played Marcus Morris at the 5. Mann played 26 minutes, was not very productive, only had 11 Draftkings points in that time. But if Zubac is out again, I'd assume that Mann does start again and probably plays close to 30 minutes. At 5K, I would like him a little bit as a value. Now, there are some other guys I prefer for cheaper. In my opinion, I think Marcus Morris is probably my favorite value. I was very high on Marcus Morris last slate. It paid out well. He had a really good game, 39 minutes played, 31 DK points. I've been saying it lately that at some point Marcus Morris is going to get, he's just going to get things going at some point. He's not going to continue to be as bad as he's been. We saw those first few games when Kawhi was out. Marcus Morris showed a lot of upside. He was playing big minutes. He was scoring the ball really well. Then he sustained that knee injury. He really hasn't been the same since he got that knee injury, but it looked like he was fully healthy last game. He played nearly 40 minutes. He shot the ball really well, had a good game. He's 4K today. I think Marcus Morris is a clear top value play. I don't know why he's this cheap after having such a good game last game, but if we're getting almost 40 minutes from Marcus Morris, he is definitely my favorite value on the slate. I think he even makes some sense as a cheap captain option. Normally, I try and pay up at captain, but on this slate, I think Marcus Morris does make a lot of sense as a cheaper captain. I do want to talk about Cousins and Beverly. Cousins at 4,800 did play only 11 minutes last game, but he was really productive in that time, 24 DK points. Obviously, if Zubac is out again, we probably get around 10 to 15 minutes from DeMarcus Cousins. Now, at 4,800, his prices come up a good amount. I don't think he stands out as much as as a good value, but still would be playable because we know Boogie has a lot of upside and we know he's a really good point per minute player. He only needs like 15 minutes to give you a good score at this price too. So I don't mind Boogie. I don't feel as good about him. I wish he was a little bit cheaper, but even at 4,800, he is definitely playable today if Zubac is out again. Then Beverly, continues to start, plays probably 25 to 30 minutes at 4,600. He's another value play I'm kind of looking to. I would put Marcus Morris ahead of both Beverly and Cousins, but I think both Beverly and Cousins do make some sense as values. Obviously, Cousins dependent on if Zubac plays or not. Cameron Payne, I don't really have any interest in. Like, his minutes have really come down lately. With Booker and CP3 both healthy, there's just not enough minutes for Cameron Payne right now. He's probably going to play like 10 to 15 minutes. At 4,200, his prices come way down, but I still don't really have that much interest in Cameron Payne. Cam Johnson at 3,600. Again, another guy that I really haven't been on so far in the playoffs. I really haven't played him on these showdown slates. He did have a pretty solid game last game, 25 DK points in 23 minutes. If you're looking for a cheaper value option, I don't mind Cameron Johnson at 3,600, but if I can find the $400, I would much rather play Marcus Morris over Cameron Johnson. Then you have Batum, who I thought was going to be a guy that really benefited with Zubac out last game. He did play 30 minutes. He was not that productive, though, only 15 DK points, but it was good to see him get the minutes. I think if Zubac is out again, Batum probably does come off the bench, but he'll play 25, 30 minutes. They can run just some different lineups. Obviously, they can play small with Batum at the 5 whenever Zubac's off the floor. So, yeah, if Zubac's out again at 3K, I think Nicholas Batum is probably right up there with Marcus Morris in terms of favorite value plays for me. There's plenty of value on this slate. This is definitely a slate where you should be able to pay up for PG, pay up for Booker, CP3, because we have cheap guys that look pretty good. Beverly playing 30 minutes. Marcus Morris potentially playing 35, 40 minutes. If Zubac's out, you got Batum for 3K, who's probably going to play close to 30 minutes. So, yeah, there's definitely some good value today. Once you get past Batum, Dario Saric, I don't really have any interest in. Probably plays like 10 minutes. I would just rather play Batum over Sarge. And then Luke Kennard, another guy that probably plays like 15, 20 minutes, doesn't really have much upside. Kennard's playable because he's super cheap, and he probably will get at least like 15 minutes. But, again, we've seen Kennard just can go out there and put up a stinker. Like, he just doesn't. Playing alongside Paul George, Reggie Jackson, like, he's just not going to get much usage in the Clippers offense. For him to really have a good game, he's going to have to shoot the ball really well or just kind of have like an outlier performance. So don't think I'm going to go there. And the rest of these guys I have no interest in. So I think that kind of does it for the player pool. I think we pretty much, talked about all the playable options, all the guys I have interest in. Do want to hit on a few prize picks real quick before we do end the video. Again, guys, if you have not checked out prize picks yet and you would like to, be sure to use promo code NOAH when you do sign up. That will give you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100, and it will also give you a free entry into their $1 million promo that they're running right now. As you can see on the screen, prize picks running a $1 million promo for all new users who make their first deposit. It's pretty much they give you 5 players. It's usually the 5 like top stars: Booker, CP3, Paul George, Reggie. It's all those guys. They give you those 5 players, and you try to guess the exact amount of points that each player scores. Even if you get like one of the 5 right, you do win, I think, like $50 or $100. And if you get 2 of the 5, your prizes increase. They have it listed on their website, the official rules and everything, if you want to check it out. But talking about prize picks for today, again, Marcus Morris, a guy I was pretty heavy on last slate. I liked his over a lot. His projection was, I believe, 17 last slate on prize picks. Obviously, he went over that. His projection today is 20.5. Once again, I like the over on Marcus Morris's projection on prize picks. If he plays 35, close to 40 minutes again, he's very likely to go over 20.5 fantasy points. So that's one pick that I do like a lot. I'll for sure be keeping an eye on the status of Zubac. If Zubac gets ruled out, I really like the over on Nicholas Batum as well. We saw Batum play 30 minutes last game with Zubac out. I think he definitely benefits with Zubac off the floor. So I would like that one quite a bit. Obviously, that's dependent on Zubac's status. Terrence Mann, if Zubac's out again, probably will start and get close to 30 minutes. He has a 19.5 fantasy point projection on prize picks. I kind of like the over there as well. Obviously, these two are dependent on the status of Zubac, but if he is out, like the over on Mann, like the over on Batum. Even the over on Beverly, I don't mind. He did go over his projection last game. He's been getting consistently, around 30 minutes. Can definitely get you over 16.5 fantasy points when he's playing around 30 minutes. But the rest, I think, looks pretty good. The stars, I think going over on the stars makes plenty of sense. Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Paul George, Ayton. Like, Ayton had a bad game last game. Obviously, he came short of his projection, but I went over on Ayton last slate. I think, going over on his projection again makes some sense as well. Definitely like, the over on all the big guys, because I think, in a pivotal game like this, you're going to see massive minutes for all these guys. They're very likely to, come close to their projection, if not go over it. But definitely my 3 favorite kind of early picks. Love the over on Marcus Morris fantasy points, and then if Zubac is out, really like the over on Nicholas Batum fantasy points and Terrence Mann fantasy points, because I think both those guys would benefit if Zubac were to sit again. But that does it for the prize picks, a little breakdown. That does it for today's Showdown slate. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. As always, I do appreciate you watching. If you did enjoy, click that like button down below. Click that subscribe button as well. And also hit the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload, and you also do get notified every time I live stream. Once again, guys, I will be live this afternoon, probably around 6 o'clock Eastern. I'll be live on my YouTube channel breaking down the slate with you guys and answering all your questions as always. So if you do have any questions about tonight's slate, if you want to get something answered, be sure to tune into the live stream because I can answer everything there. But good luck tonight, guys. Appreciate you watching the video. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you in the next one.